Welcome to MythBusters Aftershow. Tonight we're talking about the video games episode. First question, how come it's taken you 11 years to do an episode devoted to video games?
That's a really good question, because it's actually been on our list for almost that whole length of time. We've had some video game myths on our list. The biggest problem that we've had is collaborating with a video game manufacturer. They're giant companies, and it requires lots of negotiation, as this episode did, and that requires a real commitment from the network, the production company, and us to make it happen, come up with a good plot, get it approved by the video game company, have the footage approved, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, large companies have lots and lots of money, and that generally means they're hard to work with. Next question.
There's a lot of bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I really like the myths in here, but how difficult was it to find stories that somehow represented 30 years of the gaming industry?
Well, I mean, we went back and forth on that. I mean, we tried to look at things that were like indicative of video games as an entire genre, but we were also just looking for stuff that was fun to test.
And stuff that was reasonable to test. I mean, there's a lot of situations in video games where they're leaping, you know, like 50 feet from one thing to the next.
Well, everybody does. Yeah, they throw hand grenades down and use the blast to throw themselves up onto the roof of a building and crap like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Game over.
It's a video game. It's not real life. So we had to look for things that we could sort of get a purchase on in the real world, and yet it be representative of the unreal world of the video game. Next question, Fruit Ninja, hilarious. Is that a question?
I guess.
Well,
yes,
thank you.
I agree. It was hilarious. That was like pure fun, taking a video game into real life and seeing how much fun it would genuinely be. And I've rarely had so much fun on this show as hacking away at that fruit being tossed to me by jugglers. Just great.
Yeah, and swinging chainsaws around.
Absolutely.
In midair, and we were getting a kick out of spraying the cameraman. I guess that probably ended up in the episode.
I think it did. Yeah, there was tremendous volumes of safety meetings about swinging a chainsaw around and what are the contingencies, and I mean we had to wear it was a whole thing.
Next question: were you worried about danger for the Fruit Ninja in real life? I was worried somebody was going to get decapitated.
Yes. So yes, I anticipated the question. Yeah, safety was a key issue in this because we've got somebody with a sharp blade or a running chainsaw up above other people. How to do that safely, and it's one of the reasons that I'm throwing the fruit when Jamie's holding the chainsaw, because we really trust each other, and also have our eyes on the bigger issues, and we're able to maintain. You know, it's not like I'm going to let go of the sword, but it is really important that I don't, because you don't want this big sharp thing swinging through the air. We had a lot of discussions about the best way and the best protocols.
Yeah, and Adam collects swords, so he plays around with them. He's not an expert swordsman by any means. I've put hours. I put like months into work with a chainsaw.
Yeah, he carves a totem pole every fall.
Okay, let's see. Next question. The Doom stuff was cool. Were either of you fans of that game?
I was. Actually, I remember playing the very first version of Doom back in 1993, if I'm not incorrect. Way back then, when it first came out, I remember playing Doom, and it's just a beautiful game. It was a real sea change. I remember being astonished by it, had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I decided at one point while working on MythBusters, because we were aware that gamers were fans of the show, that I should learn a thing or two about gaming. And so I bought some games, and I got I got a computer that would run them fine. But I found that it was actually so much work to learn all the intricacies of the game, and it took so much time that I just wasn't willing to put that into it. I'd rather work, with my hands making things than sitting in front of a computer screen. Always.
Yeah, that's the irony, is that neither of us are real gamers.
Yeah, but
I play Millipede.
Next question. This is weird, but was it scary doing that shoot? I mean, having to shoot at people and monsters in the dark.
There was more of an adrenaline rush doing it than I expected. I mean, did you find the same thing?
Yeah, you don't know where these guys are going to come out at you from, and so it did kind of get your blood going.
Yeah, and I always enjoy that when we set up when we set up a totally artificial environment and we're trying to test ourselves within it, like actually zombie axe versus gun is a great example. You know, you wonder how much adrenaline is going to play a role when you've done the setup and you know how it's going to go. The fact is, hearing a bunch of people dressed as zombies staggering towards you, making zombie moans, is genuinely spooky. And running through this abandoned military building where there's zombies and people with guns shooting at you, and you don't want to die. You don't want to die. It definitely gets your blood going more than I would have thought before the fact.
Yeah, and I have done a few times video game, or I'm sorry, paintball games.
Oh, okay.
Where you get into a team and you go out to an actual paintball place and you do similar stuff to that, where people are shooting at each other, and it's I do like it because it's actually phenomenal exercise. Your adrenaline gets going so much that you're running and you're dodging this way and that way. It's not just about shooting guns at people. It's very it's very good exercise. Sorry. Next question. This is weird, but
That's the one you just asked.
Oh, next question. Then Brendan was a man mountain.
He certainly was.
Were you surprised at what he could do? And on a side note, are you fans of UFC?
I don't follow the UFC that much. Brendan could not have been nicer, and more of a perfect physical specimen to be our Doom avatar. The guy is like, he's giant and wide, and he works out constantly, and he runs the 100-meter dash really fast. I mean, the guy is just like, he ticked every single box we ever could have imagined, and a few we didn't even know about.
Yeah, and he was just as nice as could possibly
He totally was. It was fantastic.
Yeah, which is it's weird to have this guy that is making his living for all he's worth against
literally a professional ass kicker.
Yeah, he was also telling us all sorts of interesting things, and one key one was that he used to play football and I don't know how professional he got or whatever, but he found that he was far more injured and stressed in football than he was in
UFC?
In UFC with all this punching and kicking and fighting. Wow. He said, I'll take that any day in terms of the physical punishment because of, I guess, the impacts that...
Right, and the repeated impacts. And
yeah. Last question.
Last question.
If you were abandoned on a desert island and could take one video game with you to play for eternity, what would you take?
Millipede. Like I said, I played Millipede. That's my game. It was my game when I was 15 and worked at Horse Feathers Bar in Tarrytown, New York. It's my game now. I've got one in my cave. How about you, Jamie?
I don't know. Do they have a Charlie's Angels video game?
You're talking out loud again.
I mean, sorry.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the MythBusters After Show. See you next time.